Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show and the podcast, and dabbling still on Substack. What do you think of that? Have you had a look at us on Substack as well? It's quite a good way of presenting the information that we share with you every day on YouTube. However, oh no, I hear some of you say, not another platform to look at. Anyway, let me know what you think about Substack. Our main activities are, of course, immortalized on YouTube, 2 videos a day at least, and many shorts now, which seems to be going very well. And my guest this morning, and we'll find out where he is. I think he's in his car. He's probably traveling. He's probably got a set of exciting meetings to go to today. It's Paul Rees of Rural Properties. Hola, bon dia.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
How are you doing, Paul?
Good, very good, thanks. Yeah.
You're in your mobile office, I see.
I'm in my mobile office. I'm outside the Penella Centre, between Penella and Espinal, because I got an early start. I'm heading up to Tondela to see Hugh, who you know, at Tres Rios.
Tres Rios. Yes, I did have a bottle of his wine on my desk, but it's not a good look. So it's stuck in the kitchen. Yes, I do give my best regards to Hugh and his fabulous property.
I shall probably press another bottle into my hand.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Lots of love to Hugh and Jane then. Penella, you say, I think they've got their fabulous annual gathering, their sort of castle-based medieval festa coming up soon, I think.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, it's not a place I visit so often, but there are a lot of estrangeiros live in that area, Espinal, mainly because there's access to schooling.
Yes.
And it's, good. Apparently a good sort of social scene in that area. So it's funny where you get little hotspots. Yeah,
Miranda de Corvo, not far away, where our beloved friend Philomena lives as well. So yeah, great place to look. I love Penella Castle and that area. I did fall in love. I mean, you fall in love all the time in Portugal, of course, as you're traveling around. But it's definitely ranks very highly in the places I'd be happy to live in. Penella's great.
Yeah, anywhere with a castle. I found myself in a branch the other week. I was finding a hardware store with a specific tile. I mean, don't ask. But as I was at the checkout at MaxMat, I looked out the window and there was a impressive hill and I think a convent on the top. And I said to the assistant, "Is there a castle here?" Duh. And she said, "Yeah, quite a big one." I didn't say, "Where is it?" I said, "Don't worry, I'll find it. It's obviously on the hill." Yes. And I sort of took an hour out of my fairly busy time, and it was just fantastic. And the little museum, and there was tourists. I think all the tourists of the region had gathered there, so it's quite busy actually. It's good. Yeah.
Branch is a very interesting place. We will get to talk about rural properties in just a moment, but this is also great information because. I'm so glad to hear you stopped and had a look round, not just chop, busy. You took an hour out, as you say, and had a look. A branch is a very interesting place because you could drive past it. You look at it from the road and it looks a bit gritty, doesn't it? I think there's a big power station there and it's like, oh, I'm not sure. But when you get up the hill and inside the town, it's beautiful up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very calm, very calming. I think a lot of the towns, I mean, a lot of them go back hundreds of years, and they play key important parts in an older Portugal, whether they were on routes or on rivers, or they're all. There's always a reason for a town to be there. It's trade or defence, and it is interesting just to take some time out. Yeah, and you get the most unprepossessing places have got a key part in Portugal's history. It is interesting. Not that I'm obsessed with Portugal's history, but I think it's up to us to learn, where we can.
Yes, and it's so accessible, isn't it? Portuguese people love their history, and I think they study it very deeply at school. Very proud to tell you about it, and it's inescapable, isn't it? As you tour around the country, scratch the surface and find a fascinating story underneath. And like a branch, scratch the surface, go into the town and find something you just weren't expecting as you look up from the road there, from the main road. Great to have you here, Paul, on your monthly visit with the Rees report, the real estate report from Central Portugal, and a little bit of a retrospective today, I think. Were you quite surprised to discover how long you've been working in Central Portugal just recently?
Yeah, well, it's coming up to 5 years. End of this month, the very first week of June. And I remember that day, sat in the office of Edge Lawyers in Lisbon, signing my life away, but relieved to be moving from the south to the centre of the country. After
Yes.
18 years in the Algarve, basically, and a longer history there since the 80s when my parents moved there. So it was, an interesting move. It wasn't a big wrench. It seemed a natural progression.
Yes.
And the Algarve, when I left, the traits it had developed and was continuing with continue now. And it's just the pressure. It's not that I'm a snowflake, but the pressure of tourism, pressure of land resources. It's a tourist zone. People outside the Algarve consider it a slightly separate country. It is the land beyond the hills. But it's golf and it's sun, and people enjoy it. They go there for 2 weeks and come back again. Everyone in this region seems to know someone with an apartment in Portera. But it is seen as that. It's a leisure zone, and if you want to, I think the poor publicity surrounding Albufeira at the moment,
awful.
It is an unlikable trend. But as Albufeira, there's Praia de Rocha's just as bad, in my opinion.
But you saw that trend. You saw that trend, and 5 years of retrospection and reflection. You feel vindicated, presumably, in moving away from that and to Central.
Well, I'm not looking for justification. I moved for social reasons and for good business reasons. Property in the south was becoming, for me, operating at a low level, high risk.
Yeah.
With each project taking up hundreds of thousands of euros, because your starting point was acquisition, and you're looking at 500,000-600,000 to buy something to then start to renovate. It's just insane. Okay, the rewards are higher, but the risk factor, especially when I'm dealing with lenders, with investors, it's slightly nerve-wracking. So the central region, after sort of holiday stroke exploration, I realized that I could spread the risk. If I can do the work, I can spread the risk, and everybody's more secure and happy, and the returns are the same, if not better.
Wonderful.
South.
Do you see anything? Before we move on to rural Portugal proper, do you see anything changing in the Algarve? I think perhaps your criticism and other people's is there's too much of a focus on tourism, which is completely understandable. And little else. Do you see any signs of change there, or do you think that will just go until it breaks, basically?
I don't think it will break. I think if it would break, it would have broken a while ago. There's, before the rains this year, there's infrastructure problems with water, as we know. They were panicking and looking at spending 120 million on a desalination plant and all this nonsense. No, there's still plenty of land left, and you're seeing now developers knocking down old things and building new ones. They're taking old hotels, old sites that have been derelict forever. Did you see about the water park that's been empty?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that's going to come back to life.
Yeah, things like that just sitting around. I could name them that are being, there's a pressure on land and acquisition. If you can buy anything that's got something existing on it, you sort of fast track the planning process. So I just see it continuing. That there's more golf courses being built. It just goes on and on. It's so tedious, but there's still capacity. And I think when it reaches what we would say maximum, it just recycles. The old places built in the 70s and 80s will be knocked down and rebuilt because the land is worth so much more.
Okay, so the tourist republic of the Algarve will continue, and
Yeah.
to grow and thrive in that way. Brilliant. Okay, onward then to the real business here today, and why we talk every month. Rural properties. Of course, people can find you at all the W's, rural-properties.com. Your beautiful website there. And yeah, 5 years. When you say you were signing your life away, but you were incorporating and becoming a company that specialized in development in central Portugal. Is that how it worked 5 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, to do it seriously, I needed to not be a sole trader, to actually have a limited company. We got 4 shareholders that funded the startup, the pilot period, that was somewhat disrupted with COVID.
Of
And
course.
but being a limitada, just it's better with banks, with lenders, with credibility. So, and there are advantages of running a company here rather than just being me. I don't think people would lend me chunks of money if it was just me.
Yes.
There's a company behind it with lawyers and accountants and all the trimmings, if you like. But yeah, that was 5 years ago. We brought on one new shareholder, and there's room for one final one, and we have an agreement with an individual on that. So it's a full complement of sane people backing the business, and it progresses.
Very good. Very
We
good.
weathered through. Yeah, COVID was it 5 years ago?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? How these things come and go. The great outage was only about 2 weeks ago. That also seems like it's in the dim and distant mist of time, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
rather serious issue. We've moved on. We've moved on.
Right. Do you remember the great
The great
darkness?
Iberian outage of 25.
So people said, how did you cope? You're running a business. How did you cope? I said, I sat in the backyard and I started to read a book that's been on my shelf for ages about a Senor Casimirio Freire, who the road that one of my houses, that the road is named after him in Portugal Pequeno, and he's a great educationalist and started the first mobile schools. He went around
Really?
teaching kids how to read and write in rural areas. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Lovely story.
It bankrupted him. He started out a wealthy man, and his business in Lisbon, that was the import export of fruits and dried fruits and cereals and stuff, for whatever reason ended up collapsing. But he'd made so many powerful friends that it carried on. It was very good.
Amazing. Are you reading in Portuguese, presumably?
Yeah.
Incredible. You're great for excuse me. You're great for vocabulary. Limitada is LDA, presumably, and you introduced me to the word barriga before we came on air, which is a challenge for gentlemen of a certain age, which I'll let people look up for themselves. Oh, well done, though, reading that book in Portuguese. And what a lovely film that would make as well.
It is pretty cool, actually. He was linked to the all-powerful Vidigal family that controlled Sertão Pedregal Pequeno, who made their money back in the days of Brazil. I think one was a regional governor, which is a license to print money. So he had some rich friends basically, and then got involved in politics. He was a Republican as well. So no, I sort of prefer family history. I find if you follow a family, what's going on in the world around them fits into place, and it's more memorable as well. The influences on how people react and how families develop, and how the Vidigal family developed was part of the conversation I was having yesterday, because the 5th generation are trying to sell the old family pile, which is an impressive mansion, 600 grand's worth. I think I've written about it in The Resident as well, but that's back on the market. So tracing the family from the ones that went out and made the cash, to this generation that clearly have spent the last cent.
It's a familiar story, isn't it? It's incredible. Yeah.
I think the only reason it lasts so many generations is there's no inheritance tax.
Yes. That's interesting.
So they just they can hang on to things, and I think the family pile's the last thing to go.
Like those stately homes of Britain where we're from, that you get that same sense, don't you? That they're down to their last, they're asset rich and cash poor, so they have to open it up on a Sunday and charge people a few bob to have a look round. Amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they'll start doing in Portugal as well.
Selling cream teas, never.
It's like awful business, letting the great unwashed in on a Sunday afternoon, but needs must. We've got a wine bill to pay. Right. And the gentleman's name again. I mean, he's a dangerous fella because he's educating people. Presumably that was part of his downfall. But what was his name again, Paul?
Casimiro or Casmirio, depending on whether you're reading the street name or his real name. Freire, Freire.
Wonderful. Casimiro Freire. Wonderful. Yeah. Excellent stuff. Okay. Right. Finally, then, we talk about property in rural Portugal. And you mentioned you had to go in at 500,000 in the Algarve on the acquisition level. I saw you on social media, I think, referring to an acquisition of around 40,000 as a starting point. Beautiful place, beautiful project. This is where you've got to now in these 5 years, and this knack for finding great places. Among other many lessons learned in this 5-year journey. Tell us about some of those, about what you've learned in this last 5 years working there.
Well, the 40 grander was part of sort of pilot phase 1, where we thought village properties, they're cheap, let's do them up, sell them on to foreigners. Each one is X amount of work, and they were at the cheaper end. Lessons learned is when I say there's about 5 of them, took longer to sell than I had planned, which is a drag, and investors start getting jumpy, and quite rightly. And you think, oh, well, do we just reduce the price? And then you look around and you think, no, the price is right. That's not the issue. The issue is the volume of sales. And obviously through COVID, nothing happened. After that, things picked up fairly quickly. But we stuck to price levels and achieved them. But it takes far longer to sell than in Lisbon or the south or Porto.
Right.
So we just have to factor that in terms of discussing return on ROI, annual return for investors. They've got to be aware that we can turn a property round in X months. What I can't predict is the sales period. So that was lessons learned. The other lessons were expect the unexpected, such as a period of COVID or blackouts or whatever, or drought. Things that affect the market, external factors that affect the market, politics, international events. I think the disruption in the world at the moment actually is pushing people towards Portugal, not away, which is good.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think the Azores is getting full up with everyone leaving, all the illegal Portuguese leaving America, getting out before they're pushed out. So I
hadn't thought of that.
No, they are. No, it's quite a big. There was a BBC News yesterday. There's a big article about the illegal Portuguese that have been there decades. Some of them, but they're getting out before they are arrested. Basically, pulled off the street because of their ethnicity. They claim in very guarded way by the BBC, but it's because they look like Latin Americans apparently. Some of them, or they think they do, so they're worried they're going to be lifted and locked up before deportation.
It'll be the dark hair.
Yeah.
Weird. Right, okay. It sounds like Stella Branco and some Brits who've been there for 20 or 30 years without registration. I mean, that's a problem, isn't it? And I can see how this happens. You know, some Portuguese will have gone to the States 20, 30 years ago, maybe even longer, never registered, probably never learned to speak English, living in a completely sort of Portuguese community. And something's changing, isn't it? Of course, with the new regime and having them flee back to the Azores, which they never imagined they'd be doing, I suspect.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they didn't. Yeah, certainly their children didn't. But so there are some outside influences that affect my market, my micro market in the central region, but they're all positive ones in terms of customers, because there's more Portuguese moving out of Lisbon and Porto. There's retirees coming here thinking they can buy a 4-bedroom villa near Villa Moura for 300 grand. But a one in front of it now. I'm getting a lot of Americans and Canadians looking for I wouldn't say the big open spaces, but something with green around, because that's what they're used to. So yeah, it is the sort of macroeconomics is pushing people firstly to Portugal, and then secondly, based on their own personal financial circumstance, they are wanting the dream. You see it on Facebook every day. I have 100,000 budget and want a cottage overlooking the sea with a little garden and a swimming pool, and it's just not going to happen.
No.
Anyway, so it's so those sorts then are saying, all right, well, let's look inland, let's look further inland, and the further inland you go, the more reasonable it becomes. And then they find there is life, there are communities, there's help available, there's good networks, there's good road networks and social networks. So it is an interesting, I'm in a good position in the market. I had a comment actually from a Algarve estate agent who I've known for 20 years the other day. He said I've been thinking you did exactly the right thing at the right time. He said you're now well placed where you are and doing what you're doing. Well done.
Very good. Well played. Well placed. Excellent stuff.
Yeah. I mean, more through circumstance than any deal of great planning. But
take it. You should take that.
I do. And the other stuff learned is materials prices go up, labor is scarce, less so than in Lisbon. People say, oh, how do you find anyone to work there? Well, there's, in terms of the mão de obra, the lavradores, the people doing the basic stuff, there's plenty around. In terms of, how on earth do you find an electrician or a plumber? Well, they all live here.
Yeah.
There are, I could name 5 electricians within 5 kilometers of where I'm sat, because they're here, they're established, they've got families, they're busy, sure, but they're not all in Lisbon working for the dollar. Some people actually do live here and become electricians.
Right. Very good, very good. So, and then that's the beauty of what you've done as well. Of course, is you were in there 5 years before people starting today, and these people, the networks, where to get the materials, and you can get the job done. Because you mentioned timescale, you pretty much nailed that, I suppose, with bringing all the pieces together. So that something can be delivered on time in this lovely part of the world. And you're opening people's eyes up to this. I think people may come and be a little bit disappointed that they're not buying a 100,000 euro cottage overlooking the sea with a swimming pool, having to look inland. But when they do, I mean, you must get a lot of this as well. People are like, wow, I had no idea. This is fantastic.
Yeah. And it's, firstly, people need to visit. They need to spend some time and talk to people. And I can show people around. It's not my job, but I like the people. I'm dealing with a couple now who are buying a house in the town from us, and they're well researched. They've rented a house for 6 months before they came. They've left the UK. Their son remains there to run that side of the business. There's still, one of them's working, so they've got an income, doing absolutely everything right. And I said to them, you actually are a picture perfect couple of how to do it.
Very good.
And how not to do it is exactly the opposite. It's to come here in a rush, have nowhere to rent, go off and buy the first house they look at, regret it for 5 years, sell it at a loss because they realize they've overpaid, find the paperwork is up the spout. It's just
sadly that is an all too familiar story, isn't it? Which is also, I'm sure, what you've come across in these last few years.
You need to know who to trust as well. I get a lot of people asking for help, and I'm willing to give it up to a point. And someone sent me all the paperwork for a farm they're looking at, about 150 miles away, but that's fine. Send me the paperwork and I'll look at it. And the paperwork and the presentation through an estate agent is highly deceptive.
Yeah.
And this is not a property anyone should be buying. And the same week, funnily enough, in the same area, from a completely different couple, I had more paperwork came through. Absolutely perfect. All the numbers added up. The urban rustico, everything was fine. The land registry actually matched the code.
Bingo! Wow.
Probably find the registered owner's been dead for 5 years, but you'll find that out later. But yeah, it is dangerous. You need to have your wits about you, and as soon as you've found somebody that you can trust, stick to them, hold them close.
Yeah.
Buy them lunch, obviously. Yeah.
Buy them lunch. Absolutely. That's a minimum requirement, isn't it? And if you want to find out more, go to ruralproperties.com, where you can see a few of the properties that Paul and team have been working on just recently. It's a beautiful website. I think it's due for an upgrade and a renewal, you were telling me. I think it's fantastic. A few previous projects and victories in the central Portugal real estate market there. Absolutely delightful.
Yeah,
it's a gallery. It's a gallery, Paul.
Yeah, it is. There is at the top, there's a tab that says properties, that are the ones for sale, that now are a mixture of properties that the company owns, that we're renovating, either in partnership with an end buyer or off our own bats, just to bring them up to a saleable stage. And these third-party properties, such as Hugh, where I'm going today, into Tres Rios.
What a treasure that is.
Yeah, which is interesting. And I've got one person dedicated to running that side of it, which is great, the third party stuff. And that's the reason for today, because Quinta dos Tres Rios is third party. Then we're going up to one of the old convents, one of the two old convents, to do some more dronage, because it's a beautiful day. And then we're meeting an agent in sometime near Viseu to talk about co-listing one of her properties.
Very good. All right. So have you got the domain oldconvents.com as well? Because you seem to be specializing in those.
I should actually I shouldn't call the second one a convent. It's not. The owners don't want it to be known as a convent. It's a manor house.
Okay.
Convent for several hundred years, so fair enough.
Fair enough. Okay, sorry. Point of order, and well corrected there. In the last few minutes, then I've got a big question for you. And the coach has joined us behind the scenes, as Portugal Club members can do. He's dropped into the studio. Great to see Paul on the show again. Love some of the properties that are on the website. I think you are getting like a fan club of people who just go and drool over the listings there. I think coach is among them. Looking forward then, this is 5 years and people will be able to read about that in your upcoming Portugal resident article, where we're both writers. And 5 years looking forward then, the next 5 years, Paul, what do you hope to achieve in this next time span?
Oh, bigger and better and more. The developments now, we've got into buying bigger buildings and turning them into apartments. In that there's very few can afford or wish to live in large historic buildings. If they do, there are plenty around, but dividing them up into really nicely done apartments is a development, and it's profitable. And it increases the housing stock, which everybody's complaining there aren't enough properties. I'm looking at looking at commercial properties, such as there's an old hotel locally that could be turned into about 8 apartments, and reopening the ground floor. I think it was a tea room for many decades. So it's just being involved. It's taking opportunities as they are presented, and also sorting out the funding, being more flexible on the funding so I can react quicker.
Yes.
And so we are in the next 2 months changing the basis of how we are funded as a business. So yeah, so it's moving away
Oh, we seem to have lost Paul there in his car in Penilla. I'll just take him off the screen for a moment and add the website back. Sign up for the monthly newsletter there at rural-properties.com. That was a rather sudden end to our conversation, but I think you got the gist there. Anybody looking for a beautiful property in central Portugal, anybody wanting to learn about central Portugal, I think he and I need to talk, actually, because he was saying he can show people around, but he's obviously busy doing other things. I'd love to show people around and do tours of central Portugal. Absolutely love that part of Portugal. I think it's so much undiscovered, uncelebrated treasure and culture and lifestyle in central Portugal. Love the opportunity. I live in central Portugal, really, but over on the coast. It does become very different. Same Portuguese spirit and soul, as I often say, but a different expression of that in central Portugal. And of course, as Paul alluded to there, anybody who wants to invest in the company as well should reach out to and be involved in this incredible opportunity that is what's going on in central Portugal, as we've heard about from Paul Rees there, who we'll talk to again next month. Have a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, and bye for now.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need